So,
Thank you.
Senator Lyon, you have the call.
Thank you. I present an interim report of the Red Tape Committee, the effect of red tape on the sale, supply and taxation of alcohol, together with the Hansard record of proceedings and documents presented to the committee, and move that the report be printed.
Okay, the question is that the report be printed. Those of that opinion say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it.
I move that the Senate take note of the report. Mr Acting Deputy President, I chaired the committee which heard extensive evidence that confirmed that red tape is death by 1,000 cuts. Each individual regulation or piece of red tape can seem quite simple. It's just one extra form or one extra requirement, but it adds up to a substantial burden over time. The committee learnt that across Australia there are no less than 62 different types of licences and 24 different types of permits for businesses to acquire if they want to serve alcohol. We learnt that in New South Wales, after certain hours, small bars cannot serve a classic martini or a Negroni, and premium whisky costing up to $100 a nip cannot be served without the addition of a mixer. Whisky connoisseurs view this as the equivalent of blasphemy. It certainly serves no public benefit. We learnt that a family business operating 18 liquor stores across New South Wales with no recorded infractions is required to close at 10 p.m. and pays 140% more in fees than a large-capacity nightclub venue in the Sydney CBD precinct that operates until 3 a.m. The committee also learnt that in a typical Queensland pub or club, after 1 a.m, you can order a bottle of wine, which comprises 7 standard drinks, or a jug of beer, about 4 standard drinks, but not a single serve of whisky on ice, which is 1 standard drink. The licences, fees and restrictions mean that businesses are not free to operate, evolve and improve. Some businesses respond by just leaving the industry. Based on this evidence, the committee recommends that the Australian Government and COAG first consider reductions in restrictions, including allowing packaged alcohol to be sold in convenience stores, petrol stations and supermarkets, and abolishing restrictions on trading hours for liquor stores. To reduce the burden of remaining regulation, the committee recommends streamlining and simplifying liquor licensing systems to reduce the number and types of licences or permits to a minimum viable level, and recognition of responsible service of alcohol certification acquired interstate, whether through online or face-to-face training. To avoid a worsening regulatory environment, the committee recommends a shifting of resources away from the creation of new regulation applicable to all and toward the targeted enforcement of existing regulation. And to address concerns about fees, the committee recommends that liquor licensing fees be based on empirical assessments of risk rather than social perceptions of risk. The committee also heard that much of the red tape burden in the industry arises from the tax system. In 2016, the OECD reported that Australia was the 3rd highest alcoholic beverage taxing country among its member countries. This explains why Australian alcohol is often cheaper when purchased overseas. Taxation is not only high but also confusing, thanks to 2 taxation systems that provide for 16 tax rates and various concessions. This leads to numerous illogical outcomes and great variation in the amount of alcohol tax paid for each standard drink, which can range from $1.06 to $30 per serve of alcohol. According to the Distilled Spirits Industry Council of Australia, a case of a certain type of ginger beer is subject to $21.54 of excise tax, while the same sized case of a similar ginger beer is subject to only $8.70 of wine equalisation tax, because it is characterised as a fruit or vegetable wine. This despite the fact that the ginger beer subject to excise tax is 4.5% alcohol by volume, whereas the ginger beer subject to wine equalisation tax is 8% alcohol by volume. My Choice Australia told the committee that the different rates of tax disproportionately affect small business. Small distillers and brewers face particular discrimination from the tax system, not just with respect to the differing tax rates, but also with respect to their engagement with the tax office. The Australian Hotels Association said that the different rates of tax don't support harm minimisation. For example, the Alcopops tax was encouraging young people to buy large bottles of spirits and pre-loading them, rather than measured pre-packaged bottles of alcohol. The committee heard from numerous organisations that the policy objectives for alcohol taxation are not clearly or consistently articulated, and the policy mechanisms have not always been effective. This was not just remarked upon by industry representatives, but groups like the Royal Australasian College of Surgeons and the Institute of Public Affairs. As a representative from the IPA rightly pointed out, public policy should be based on an agreed objective, so you can create effective policy mechanisms. The reasoning is that if there are social costs, then there may be a role for government to correct those social costs. However, for alcohol, there is no agreement on the costs, and estimates vary by billions of dollars. Inquiry participants argued that alcohol taxation should target alcohol content rather than the mechanism by which the alcohol is delivered, because all alcohol has the same effects on the human body. It is how much a person drinks and their response to alcohol that matters, not the type of drink in which the alcohol is found. This is in line with the recommendations of the 2010 Henry Tax Review. This view was supported by the Northern Territory Government, which identified a volumetric tax on alcohol as an effective measure to complement its targeted harm minimisation objectives. Based on this evidence, the committee recommends that the Australian Government provide leadership on the issue of alcohol taxation by establishing clear policy objectives for the taxation of alcohol and progress the reform of alcohol taxation, including introducing a single volumetric tax rate across all alcohol products to be phased in to allow reasonable adjustment, enacting legislative changes to enable monthly settlement of alcohol liability for big businesses and quarterly settlement of alcohol liability for small businesses, with the Australian Taxation Office to be granted discretion to extend further settlement periods based on trading terms, and the Australian Taxation Office moving towards the provision of online services as expeditiously as possible. Mr Acting Deputy President, the retail liquor industry employs 47,800 people. It supports thousands of small businesses, which annually contribute over $17 billion in sales activity and $5.1 billion in various taxes to government. The industry is overseeing a general trend towards lower alcohol consumption and less binge drinking. The number of people in Australia drinking at levels that place them at lifetime risk of an alcohol-related disease or injury fell by approximately 250,000 in the 3 years up to 2013. More people are choosing quality over quantity, and there are also increasing numbers of people abstaining altogether. This suggests that more Australians are drinking in moderation and that regulations should target those who are at risk rather than the vast majority of responsible drinkers. As the Distilled Spirits Industry Council told us, the debate on the need for regulation and further action is generally at odds with the facts. The vast majority of Australian drinkers enjoy alcohol in a responsible manner, and the sale of alcohol provides a foundation for an ever-increasing range of hospitality businesses across the country. The industry deserves a reduced red tape burden. I encourage anyone who is interested to read the interim findings of the red tape inquiry on the sale, supply and taxation of alcohol on the APH website. You'll find it instructive.